Hi everyone. This video is following our next step, which by now you'll have already learned the four assessments: the personality assessment, the interest assessment, the skills assessment, and the values assessment. And you would have already practiced each of those on people in your family, your neighbors, and your friends for some face-to-face contact time. So what do we do next? What do we do with all these assessments? Well, what you're going to do is you're going to look at the outcomes from each of the assessments. You're going to look at them all, you're going to pull them all together. I recommend printing them all and having them in front of you. Part of being a career counselor is knowing how to take those assessments and give your client some really good solid advice on which direction they need to go, either career job-wise, or what classes that would be important for them to take to see if they're interested in those areas. Now, a further step that we can do is we can do career planning. And we have two websites that we utilize. We utilize Onet, and we also utilize Occupational Handbook, which I will continue to show you those in this video and following one. But what I want you to do right now is, with each client that you work with, you're going to pull together all of the assessments, and you're going to look at it and use your common sense and your own personal knowledge from the results from the assessments. And you're going to see connections, correlations between different job outcomes and different directions that you can recommend. You also need to really know your client. So, and we've discussed about this before in different classes, but let's say you have a student who all their interests show that they should go to be in a NASA program, for example. And unfortunately, though, they're in a small town and they have no intention of leaving town, and or they're responsible for their aging grandparents and they can't leave town. So even though the assessments show that that's the best route for them, or even if they have a strong desire, I'm going to be an astronaut or whatever, you then have to take it on yourself ethically to explain to them in a very therapeutic way, these may not be the options that would best suit your particular barriers. And what you do before you do that is you also plan on how you're going to respond to your client and what alternatives that you have for them. All right, well, maybe they can't become a NASA astronaut, but there's an excellent chemistry program or a laboratory science program or something that links to some of the other interests that you found in the assessments, and lead them in those directions and say, well, what about this? This is a career that's up and coming according to what we've learned. It's something that it shows from your personality and your values assessment or your interest assessment that it matches you, and you move forward with that. And that's the part of career counseling that you have to get comfortable with. It takes time. It takes time to be able to learn your client, learn their personality. After the assessments, you get a better idea. But feel free to ask questions. Go more in depth to what kind of barriers are in front of you. Because the key here is to help the person to be as successful and as happy as possible. And you can do that by making sure that they're following something that's not going to really feel like work for them. It's going to be something that they actually enjoy. And that's the key for all of us, is to do something that we really enjoy as part of our career. So we're going to go now. I'm going to share my screen. Okay. By now, you would have already gone online. You would have already done all four assessments with your client. The way that we're going to move forward with career planning, if we go back one, you'll see that this is the area that we've been focusing on for the last 2 weeks, assessments. Well, the next stage is going to be career planning, where we'll be utilizing Onet technology and the Occupational Outlook Handbook. I'll do a separate video for the Occupational Outlook Handbook. We're going to focus on the Onet this week, but we first have to go back to our assessments, because our key assessment that we utilize in conjunction with all the assessments and pulling all this information together is the interest assessment tool. Now, as we go into the interest assessment tool, you're already familiar with, because you've been doing this with some of your face-to-face and your contacts over the last couple weeks, you'll realize that you have all these different areas that you have to fill out. And I have a sample of a completed one, but just for the fun of it, I'm just going to quickly go through and I'm going to click interested in everything. And maybe not everything. Maybe I'll just spice it up a little bit just to give a good example of how we're going to utilize the Onet technology. So I'll continue through. I'll make sure I click every interest assessment. Don't leave any out. The questions. This is going to be very random. Like I said, you're already familiar with this because you've been practicing, but what you want to do is make sure that you carry on with the clients that you've already been working on, and that way you can continue to help them. So if you've already done assessments on like your neighbor or your sister, continue on with utilizing that particular client or student or whoever you chose to continue on with your training, because I think it pulls the information together a lot better and you get a more holistic view of how to help your client. And I wish there was some way to pre-click all these. I suppose I could have pre-clicked them and recorded them ahead of time, but I want a live model to work with here. And as you can see, as I'm scrolling down, instead of just watching, what you can do is you can look at the different questions, become more familiar with it, as practice makes perfect, especially with assessments. Sometimes you'll have a student that'll be confused by the question, and it helps to be really quick on your response. Okay, here we are. We're at 56. Okay, so we're going to submit. And here you can print your results, which I have, and they come out looking like this. You get like a very long list that you can give your client that you're working with. It's always good to have copies to hand them. If it doesn't print or it sends it to their email, make sure that you can that you keep everything together. You can also copy and paste and put in a Word document. That's another creative way of doing it. But make sure that you keep everything together along with the release of information for your client, because it's useful not only for us, but for you to prove that you've done the work with the client. So in this case, this random person, their career interests show up, and you see this is why the interest inventory is so important, because you can see the key areas and the titles of the jobs that they may be suitable for. It also helps with recommended student courses, but what we really need to move forward with the Onet is something specific, a specific job title. So here we have example careers, market research analyst, there's one, financial advisor, and so on and so forth. Now, this is 83% of interest, 75% of their interest for this person went to software development, database administrator, web developer, and it goes down in percentages of the interest that you were interested in those specific areas. So even though the highest percentage is up there, someone else may also be interested in being a public speaker, and that may be their passion, but they may not be aware that, hey, wait a minute, I also seem to be interested in law enforcement. I never thought about that as a career option. And this is why it's good to go through the whole thing and look down at the least percentage. Now in this case, the least percentage would be computers. So this person obviously is not interested in computers, and chances are they would not do well in a computer-related field. So you have your interest. So then the next thing you do is you pull all the other assessments together, like I mentioned earlier, and you come up with specific job titles based on all four of those assessments that might match your client. Now you're going to have several, especially from this. So this will generate several different job titles. What I recommend you do is you go through this with your client and say, please pick out from each of the sub-interests and the interest levels, the titles of the jobs that you're actually interested in. So, and as you go through, you'll make a list of that. I would pull up a Word document and I would put that down because you'll need that later when we go into the Onet. So what we're going to do now is we're going to go, now the test has been completed and you've already done an assessment and you have a list of all the different job titles from the interest assessment, plus any other job titles that are pulled from the or possible job titles that could be pulled from the other assessments. We're going to go into the TU website and click Career Training. Now, how do you get to the TU website? Most of you already know, but just for a refresher, you go to the main TU website page, you go click on Student Services, you click down to Career Center, and you click on Career Planning. Now, the first tool that we're going to utilize this week will be the Job Center Network Onet. The Onet is an amazing tool. It has a ton of information. It would take a very long time for me to explain the entire website to you. That is part of your research. I encourage you to get many hours in practicing with the Onet and make sure you log them on your log for the Career Center. And if you're in a graduate program, make sure that you log them on Typhon so I can approve those hours as well. So where do we start? So on this particular page, you see the keyword here. And what you'll do is those interest areas that you were interested in or your client was interested in, let's say one of them was nursing. You have a list of several things, but the highest on their list was nursing. So they don't know anything about nursing. Let's say they're a high school student. They're like, I just have a cousin that's a nurse, but I don't know a lot about the field. I don't know how much money it makes. I don't know where I have to go or how much education, et cetera, et cetera. So what you do is you put in nursing and then you press the little arrow key. And what happens is it brings you to the search engine page. Now this page is really interesting because it shows the 20 occupations that are closest matching to that subject area or the interest area that you're looking at. So here you have nursing assistants and then you have registered nurses. So it gives you an idea of the different types of positions that you can be as a nurse from beginning to a higher paid level. Now you'll see little stars that appear, or it's not stars, sorry, suns, and that means it's a bright outlook. That means that statistics have shown that this job has a very bright future in the next 5 years. Statistical information has been gathered by the Onet and it projects the next 5 years ahead. So what you have is you have a really good reference to see, wow, this job shows so far that there's a huge potential growth and this might be an area I'm interested in, where there are the chief executives, education administrators, they don't have the stars beside them. So that means the job market is stabilizing in that area. So bright outlooks are always good, and that encourages them to look forward with that as well. So let's go to registered nurse. Click on that. When you click on the Onet and you see registered nurse, you suddenly are linked to other links like advanced nurse practical care, critical care nurses. But what you want is you want to scroll down with your client and go over all the different areas. And it covers it in pretty good detail. It has tasks, tools and technology that you'll need with this profession, knowledge, certain basic knowledge that you'll need to acquire, the different skills that you'll need like active listening, speaking, coordination, different abilities, work activities, assisting others, updating relevant knowledge information charting, detailed work activities, record patient medical histories, work content, And then we get to job zone and education. Now, this is the first section that you'll stop with the client once you go through and you explain a little bit about the job duties. And they're like, oh, okay, so I understand a little bit better. You can see from this that the percentage of respondents with the educational level under this particular job title, 66% have associate degrees, 23% have bachelor's degrees, and 11% have some college or no college. So what can you get from this chart? You can see that the majority of the people that are in the field have associate's degrees. And there's a smaller amount with bachelor's degrees. That instantly tells me that with a, it has a smaller amount, but it also tells you that, wait a minute, there's a growth area here. So if I get a bachelor's degree, I'm at a higher percentage area, which means I have a better potential of, career stability. So you go down to training. How do you train to become a nurse? So you click on the Find Training. And you're going to pick states because every state is completely different. They offer different training programs. So since we're in Georgia, I'm going to click Georgia, or I'm in Georgia. You may not be in Georgia. And instantly, the Onet will link you to all the different universities that are in Georgia, like Abraham Baldwin, Albany State, and it lets you know how many years the programs are. So we already saw that there was a 2-year program, and that's at Abraham. So you look at that. And Albany State has a 4-year program. There are other programs that have longer. There's Armstrong State College. It's got 4 years. Athens, Bainbridge, and so on and so forth. And we're included on that list as well here at Thomas University. But as you can see, there on some of the school links, it'll link you actually to the school website where you can find out information about that education, about the education requirements. And it'll also connect you to admissions, what you need to get into school, and what financial aid is available or scholarships. So it's a one-stop tool area. They'll be able to instantly tell them, oh wow, these are the places I can go. So maybe they live close to Albany and they didn't know they had a nursing program. Like, wow, that's cool. So then you can set that up. You can also help them with applications for the university. You can help them go with them if you want to and walk them through the steps, help them fill out scholarship information. Be as creative as you can as a career counselor because you want to help as much as possible. Because each person is individualized and you should treat them as such. So then we have the credentials. We've finished that. So then we go down to interests, social work styles, different kind of work styles, more very valuable information that will help your client or the student understand what's involved. Related occupations are important because remember that first list that we saw was pretty broad? Well, this one narrows it down. So these areas are pretty close, but they're a little bit different. They may offer different job requirements, different skills, different values, also different pay. So if you can instantly stop here, but what I recommend that you continue on, finish this page, look up wages and everything, and then go look at these different other options to see if those are other areas that they may be interested in. Maybe they're interested in helping people. Maybe they want to be in the hospital setting, but they don't really like needles. So maybe they find out after looking through that they want to want to do x-ray technician, or they realize they want to work more in a clinic and they become a dental hygienist. And you find that out by going through their interest assessments as well as their other assessments and going through their interests that they find on here as well. So you kind of combine everything. And as a counselor, a career counselor, you're always listening and you're always trying to find out exactly what direction they're going in. And you want to always try to help them narrow that down. Now, the next step we're going to go is to the wages and employment trends. This will be the second click area that we always utilize. So, and a lot of people are really interested in this. It's like, well, it gives me an idea what people get paid. So it says here median wages for nursing are $32 an hour and $66,000 annually. Well, that's different by state. But in Georgia, we go to Georgia. We can see the low average, and that's usually the starting wage, medium average, and someone who's been in the field for a long time. Now, what's interesting is you can also go in and you can put the zip code, and it will target it completely towards your specific town or area. If it works right. Let's try that again. Don't hit return like I did. Hit the little go button beside the zip code. There you go. That's what I did wrong. I hit return on my keypad. So it'll give you an idea of the statistics that have been gathered specifically, and in this case, the zip code for Thomasville. So, and as you can see, these are pretty much across the board. Now, if you want to go to California, for example, you can see that it's completely different. The average wage starts off at 63 and the high is 143. So you may want to become a California nurse or train as a nurse in a specific state, then move to California. There's also traveling nurses as well. And you can continue to go through, and they may be curious about different states. Maybe they've got an uncle that lives in Detroit, and they're like, well, I could live there and go to school. Let's look at Detroit. Follow through and engage with them. You get a lot more face-to-face contact hours that way, and you build that trust relationship with your client as well. So then we're going to go to job openings in that field. So we instantly go to find jobs. That'll be the next click area. And again, we're going to go to Georgia. And it'll pull up statistics, and it'll pull from websites that were posted more recently. In this case, we have a huge list of possible jobs in Atlanta, Stockbridge, Gainesville, Douglasville, and Augusta. Some were posted on 6/12. That was only 2 days ago. Some of them were a little bit longer, but it gives you an idea of what's available for that position. You can even apply for those jobs online, and it'll bring you to the DOL, the Department of Labor website. Everything is linked, and you can request a referral through the Department of Labor, and you'll be able to pursue this. Now, this isn't just for people that are looking for careers. You can also utilize this to help people find jobs. So if someone comes to you and they say, look, I'm looking for work, you can also utilize this to help them. Like, I'm already trained as a dental hygienist and I can't find any work. Well, you can take them online and you can help them. The other thing here that we want to look at, now again, I want you to explore other areas of Onet, like you can click on employment trends. You'll have time to do that, but for the training, I'm just going to do the basic. So, and that's pretty much it. What I want you to do is to follow through, explore the website, click on various things, but follow the pattern that I just went through with you, because I think it's the best way to go through each of the interest areas and the assessment areas, and they get a better idea. And you can print stuff out, give them packets, make sure that they walk away with something in their hand, or copy and paste everything into a Word document and email it to them. People like to feel connected, and they like to feel like you've invested some time and interest in them. And I think the Onet combined with what we're doing is a great way to be able to do that. So that's the training for the Onet, and now I'm going to go on to the occupation handbook in the next training session. But I hope this has been helpful. If you have any questions, please feel free to contact me. I'll be glad to help you with it. Thanks.